A big thank you to MPB for sponsoring today's video. How's it going? How's things? Welcome back to Framelines. Get this, 15-year-old Harold Feinstein rented a camera and took this photo. At 17, Harold Feinstein joined the Photo League alongside Robert Frank, Ansel Adams, Lisette Modell. At 19, his work was collected by Edward Steichen for MoMA. And later that same year, he made headlines in the New York Times for his exhibition at the Limelight Gallery, where he sold over 50 photographs. It became quite a hullabaloo. So Harold Feinstein was a prodigy, and then life intervened. He joined the army, went to Korea, raised a family, and was somewhat forgotten or overlooked over the decades that passed. And we've recently worked with the Harold Feinstein Trust to introduce him to people that might not have heard about him. And we have featured him in Framelines issue 3, which is the third issue of our street and documentary photography magazine. We have Harold's work in this, along with an article by Carrie Scott. So let's take a look at the life and work of Harold Feinstein, along with all the other photographers that we featured in this issue. Harold Feinstein was born in 1931 and would become best known for his photographs of Coney Island, where he lived for most of his life, photographing the people and places that he loved. Over decades, he created a body of work with real cultural significance in terms of describing what it was like to live in post-war America. In 1946, at just 15, he borrowed a Rolleiflex from a friend and began taking his first photos around his neighborhood, and then continued to photograph that neighborhood for another 6 decades. 2 years later, his photography was accomplished enough to join the Photo League, the legendary New York photography collective whose membership included Richard Avedon, Ouija, Robert Frank, Paul Strand, Bernice Abbott, W. Eugene Smith, and many more. W. Eugene Smith would later become a friend and collaborator with Harold, and describe him as being one of the very few photographers I've known with the ability to reveal the familiar to me, in a beautifully new and strong, honest way. In 1951, Harold was drafted into the Korean War as an army regular and continued to photograph life all around him, all through basic training and deployment. He said it was important to describe the humanity and tragedy of war around him. Then returning home to New York, he found himself living amongst and photographing legendary musicians like Charles Mingus, Miles Davis, and Chet Baker in the legendary Jazz Loft. He worked for Blue Note Records as a photographer and designer, and he began to sell his first street photos. In his 20s, already considered a master printer, he began teaching workshops in New York, and that interest would later turn into a lifelong passion for teaching. Harold continued to photograph, experiment with photography, print, and teach throughout his life. The last decade of his life saw renewed interest in Harold's earlier work. His first black and white monograph, Harold Feinstein, a Retrospective, was published by Nazraeli Press in 2012. He published his own blog, which you can still read to this day at haroldfeinstein.com. It's a gem and a font of wisdom and insight directly from Harold himself. Harold died in June 2015 at 84 in his home in Massachusetts. 3 years later, Last Stop Coney Island was produced. A beautiful documentary by Andy Dunn describing Harold's vivid life and philosophy with touching interviews with colleagues, family and friends, and most importantly, interviews with Harold himself.
Let your photography be the way in which you discover this world, this life, your own self.
So that's Harold Feinstein. Definitely drop a line to the Harold Feinstein Trust. Give them a follow on Instagram. I'll put up their account here. They're on Twitter as well if you want to give them a follow. So let's talk about what else is in Framelines issue 3. Alongside Harold Feinstein, we also have the work of Niall McDiarmid. Niall is a Scottish photographer based in London. His work is primarily about documenting the people and landscape of Britain. His books include Crossing Paths, Via Vauxhall, Town to Town, Southwestern and Shore. I remember first coming across Niall's Town to Town project, which involved him travelling all over Britain over 6 years and taking beautiful portraits like these. We're very happy to have his work included in issue 3. Jeremy Paige is a street photographer from New Orleans, now based in Hollywood. You might know him as Eaten by Flowers on Instagram. In a short interview in the mag, Jeremy describes street photography as being a game of odds. The more you're out there shooting, the higher your odds are at catching a split moment that might not circle back around for 100 years. He also talks about how Helen Levitt's candid, honest photography inspires him and has helped him develop a voice. We're always looking forward to new work from Jeremy and are chuffed to have him in issue 3. Niall O'Brien is an Irish photographer and director now living in California. He has included work from the series 405, which is a portrait of the busiest and most congested freeway in California. Affected massively after the coronavirus lockdowns, this series explores the environmental and social reaction to the lack of cars on these usually backed up traffic lanes, where there's been a rise in road rage reports and a sense of lawlessness amongst the smog, which is now as thick as ever. Holly Marie Cato is a photographer and filmmaker from London. With a background in architecture, her work is an exploration of how people occupy space and navigate their environment. Holly Marie's graphic compositions and bold use of colour capture the resilience of women and her interest in socio-political issues that shape our society. Her work is gracious, honest, and never fails to place dignity on the subject. Her photos in issue 3 centre around the Notting Hill Carnival in London. Teresa Freitas is a photographer from Lisbon, Portugal, who focuses on colour to capture and transform a sense of subject and place. Her distinct pastel colour scenery is instantly recognisable, and in the short interview in issue 3, she describes how street photography allows for spontaneity between people and place, and a space to build an image beyond composition. The possibilities are endless. So I think it's one of our best issues yet. It's available now. If you go to frame-lines.com, you can actually get 15% off if you sign up to our newsletter, which is something new we're trying because we find it's a good way just to give like a monthly update on exhibitions and photo books and whatever the hell we're up to. So sign up, get 15% off. Then you can buy your copy of Framelines or previous issues or prints or whatever you like. And just again, thanks to everyone that's bought an issue so far. Thanks for supporting us. We enjoy making it and we're very grateful for the support. Before we go, just a quick word from our sponsor, MPB. Josh and I have been using MPB for years now. Whenever we consider buying or selling a piece of kit, we usually go to mpb.com because it's just so simple and straightforward. Whether you're trading in or buying a new camera, the whole process is just very fast and easy. From my experience in trading in kit, they've collected it, processed it, and paid me all within a couple of days. When I bought kit from them, they've shipped it very quickly and it's arrived within a day or two, and it's been in exactly the condition they've described. So if you're looking to change up your camera system, go to mpb.com and leave a note at checkout saying Framelines sent you. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments about the magazine, leave some feedback because we'd love to get some feedback. There's 3 issues out now. We would love to hear like, what are your favorite issues? Like, is there like a particular series or a particular photographer out of the 3 issues that you like? Yeah, let us know about that. Are there any maybe blind spots that we have? Is there some kind of subgenre within street photography we haven't really covered or touched on? Are there any photographers that you're dying to see included in the mag? Yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know. Give us some feedback. And thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Hey there, this is Alex South, coming to you from my studio in St. Paul, Minnesota. This isn't Alex South.